Hey everyone, this is Mike Andes, and you're listening to the Business Bootcamp Podcast. Today I'm going to be sharing with you about the first week, which was last week, that I have actually been out of my business. We talk about working in our business, working on our business. Last week I was out of my business. Before we get into today's show though, a big thank you to today's sponsor, which is Gusto. If you have not already, check out gusto.com/bootcamp, and listeners of this podcast can use their software for all of their employees for 90 days. So usually on their website they give 30 days, but as a listener of the podcast, use that URL and you get it for 90 days. And especially if you're using other payroll platforms like QuickBooks, QuickBooks Payroll or Timesheets or these other services, Gusto is not only is it much cheaper. The users that I've interacted with and over 100,000 other employees that are using Gusto for their clock in and clock out, getting their payroll, getting their benefits, they all rank, I think it's like 98% of them rank them as a better software provider than their previous vendor, whether it be QuickBooks or whatever they were using, or an accountant or whatever. So check it out today. Go to gusto.com/bootcamp and you can see the new pricing they have that's actually even cheaper if you just want basic payroll, W-2s, and simplified deposits into your employees' checking account. So check that out today, and I know you'll love it. So today I'm talking about something, and yes, the title is somewhat clickbait. I quit. The truth of the matter is, though, it's not, because I did quit my position and my job at Augusta Lawn Care as the day-to-day operator there. No longer am I there every single day. No longer am I there majority of my time. So in the past, it's always looked like during the day, I was basically working Augusta, especially last year. Last year, I was working Augusta basically 10 to 12 hours a day, and then at night I would work on the podcast, the course, books, everything else. This year it's switched quite a bit, so I've started more and more not working at Augusta and really just focusing on just doing the estimates, and everything else was being taken care of. And then I've been training one of our guys to take over in the estimate department. And so this year it's been a little different because I have so much going on with Pro Plus, and we had the conference this year, and now we started to do the franchise. So there was a lot of preparation for that, and I did most of it at night, the franchise stuff, but I was able to start taking a couple hours here and there throughout the day to work on those things as well, just because I was trying to delegate more and more things that were on a day-to-day operational level at Augusta. And so first of all, that doesn't happen without really great people. And so I'm really blessed to have a great operational manager and a great office manager that are really taking over my positions there. And so that's first and foremost. I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for them. But today I want to talk about kind of my first week not being at my business. Like I said, we talk about being in your business and working day to day and actually doing the work. Then we talk about working on the business, working on strategy and marketing and hiring and things like that. And this is really the first week where I actually stepped away from even that, and I'm now starting to be out of the business. I'm not working there anymore. I go there for team meetings, and even the team meetings, more and more will be taken by other people that are working there, whether it be the people taking care of equipment or the sales side or the operational side. And so it's very rewarding. It's somewhat risky / nerve-wracking because it's the thing I've built the longest. So for example, the gym, I only have to go there 2-3 times a week for a couple hours max, and it runs itself really, really smoothly. It's an established business. We bought it when it was doing really well. It's a franchise business, so it has all the systems in place. Whereas with Augusta, even though it has a lot of the systems, has great people and things, I started it myself, and I started it from nothing, and I was the one that created all the systems and made all the procedures that now has become a franchise model. So what's different about that is when you're the creator of the systems, it's actually harder for you to step away from it because it's like the cook in the kitchen. If you had your hand on it, your name's on it, you feel more like you're part of it, and the systems and the business now part of you. And that's a fine thing to have. As a business owner, that's a good thing to have, is when you feel that connection to your business and you feel that responsibility to your employees and to what you're trying to build. But when you're trying to grow and expand, and now with the franchising thing, there's something that really unique that happened this spring, and that's what I want to talk about today. And that's what the title of this of the show came, that I quit. And that's what I wanted to do for about a month this past spring. And so in the landscaping world, there's a spring rush. And in that spring rush, you have work that's being done that's the less profitable because grass is growing really, really fast. So mows are being done at a lower profit margin. At the same time, the guys then have to work longer hours. It's very, very hard on them. There's lots of overtime. So again, cutting back in profit margin. You have a bigger turnover during that time of year because people get discouraged. It's, like I said, hard work, long hours, and there's always easier things they could go do. And so, it leads to 14+ hour days, 6 days a week, and it can get really, really, you get really working in the business. And so that was starting to happen. And I wasn't necessarily working in the business, but this is the thing about me is I get really, my biggest stress is when other people underneath me, especially my direct reports, are getting stressed. And even just my employees on the front lines, like even if I'm not in direct communication with them, to see them stressed and to see like there being tension or anything like that makes me stress. And I'm not necessarily saying that's what happened in spring, but I knew that there were people, there were a couple people that left, and then we had just crazy amounts of busy. Like we were so busy because we moved into a bigger market, and so we weren't really used to all the new work coming in, and we had to we're still trying to figure out the new shop and systems there because we've been at the other location for several years and had gotten used to how everything was there. And so it was just a lot of transitions. And then there's just so much going on. At the same time, I was launching Pro Plus. My book was coming out. I'm still in the process of writing another book called Local Leaders. And so there's just a ton of stuff going on. And so what ended up happening is I started feeling resentment toward Augusta and I literally started resenting the business. I didn't want to go to work there. I didn't want to have to go there and be there. When literally if that happens in 2 days in a row, I start getting worried. I start checking myself and figuring things out and making changes. But it literally started repeatedly happening here and there for a whole month. And so I knew something had to change. And, the thing is that was different for Augusta is I don't need it financially. I don't take money from there. And so it's I don't really need to be there, but yeah, I'm there so much. And then emotionally it's draining me because everyone that I'm working with when I am there is working super long hours and is under a pretty good amount of stress during March, April, May, just because there's a ton of work that comes in and then really high workloads, and then everyone's being trained because you got new people coming in, and then you got people that have been around for a while leaving because it's just a lot of work and it's hard work. So that's all happening, and you're dealing with the HR aspect, and that's something I was involved in very heavily, is dealing with all of the employees and making sure they're happy and trying to deal with their problems. And so because of all those things building up, I started to resent Augusta simply because it was the thing keeping me from doing the things I loved. It was because it was taking so much of my time. I didn't have the time to go train other business owners. I didn't have the time to take their calls. I didn't have the time to think bigger than literally the day-to-day operations of the business. And it was fine. We're doing really well, and it's not like it was doing bad. It's just I was not able to do what I wanted to do as an entrepreneur. And for an employee, their pay doesn't change necessarily from one season to the next or from 1 year to the next. Their pay might go up slowly and things like that. So when they go through periods of time like that because of exterior family circumstances, or they're going through a physical sickness or things like that, it's a little bit different because financially their pay stays the same. And if they work longer hours, they get paid more, for example. But as an owner, you during those times when you're making the least amount of money, the pressure's the highest. And then at the same time, for me, it wasn't like it was paying me anything. I don't take anything from Augusta. And so it was very difficult for me to stay engaged. And I started to resent Augusta because it was keeping me from the things that I wanted to do. And I truly believe that there a lot of business owners, this is what happens, is you start to resent the business, and because you resent the business, you start taking it out on your people because you resent the business. Now, it's not actually the business you're resenting. It's the things that the business is keeping you from. The things you have to sacrifice, whether it be the time you have to sacrifice, your health that you're sacrificing, the family time away from the business. Like, you start resenting the business because it's keeping you away from family time, keeping you away from soccer practice, keeping you away from working out at the gym, and thereby your health is deteriorating, keeping you away from home late at night, thereby you're not sleeping well and you're agitated. And so you begin to resent the business simply due to the things that you have to sacrifice in order for the business to succeed. And I find a lot of business owners in this position. So I was able to realize it in the moment, fortunately, and realize what was happening, and realize that I was starting to resent the business and resent going there, and thereby starting to resent the people there and becoming way too hard on people in terms of performance. And what I mean by that is, like, I'm a perfectionist. I don't want to micromanage, but because Augusta Lawn Care I built from the ground up and know every aspect of the business, it's easy for me to micromanage there. And so when I started to resent the business, I started to resent the people, and then I started to expect unrealistic levels of performance from them. And it was like, it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like, I expect really high results, and I'm resenting somebody, and they aren't going to meet those levels of performance, and thereby they are underperforming in my books. And then I start to resent them, not happy with their performance. It's a ball, right? They get stressed. They don't like the fact that I'm not giving them feedback positively and encouraging them, and then that just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that ends up you really having to do something about it. And so, like I said, fortunately, in the moment, I was realizing what was happening. I was realizing that I was resenting the business because it was taking me away from being able to podcast. It was taking me away from being able to talk to other business owners and try to help them. And I was literally turning down a lot of the free calls that I do for people, or locally stuff that I would do to try to help them. And I was turning them down like every single day almost. And it was tough because that's what I love to do. I love to give back. I love to teach. I love to take what I do know and try to help others. And I was not able to do that simply due to the fact I had to spend so much time there, had to get training new people up, all this stuff was going on, right? And so, there was this moment where I was like, okay, what would it take for me? Like, I had to break it down. Like, why am I so agitated? Why? Because I don't operate very well in periods where I feel resentment towards others. Like, if I resent someone, or I'm unhappy with someone, it doesn't last very long. And so I'm not very good at extending that. I usually want to talk through and get over it with it because I just think about stuff too much. And so it kind of eats away at me. And so in that moment, those few weeks there, I realized what was happening. I was resenting. I was expecting way too high a performance. Therefore, was just setting them up for failure. The people working for me, and so basically, what happened? I was like, you know what? The reason I'm doing this, the reason that this is so hard for me to be here at Augusta, is because it's not challenging me the way it needs to. And this is something that I've actually talked to some entrepreneurs in the past few months and been able to know exactly what they're going through. When the business is going well, everything seems fine. They might hit a rough patch, but overall everything is doing okay. But they begin to really resent the business because it's not fulfilling them. And this is a lot of times when entrepreneurs start starting other businesses, or they go try to find something else, or they sell their business, go do something else. And that's fine. I knew I wasn't going to sell Augusta. And so we'd always been planning to franchise Augusta, for the past few years. However, I was planning maybe in a couple more years, waiting a couple more years. Well, in this month, I figured, you know what, this is the deal. If I'm here every day, I'm just going to continue. This is going to be a really bad cycle I'm going to go through. And I'm going to keep expecting really high performance. I'm going to start resenting people because they're not hitting that level of performance, and then I'm going to get more unhappy because I don't feel like the business is growing fast enough, or it's not doing what I want it to do. And so I realized that, the business is going to do better without me as the entrepreneur there, because I built the business over the past 5 and a bit years, and that's when it needed an entrepreneur, right? It needed a founder. Now it needs operators. And it doesn't need someone there that's trying to break everything every day and trying to make every little thing better and getting finicky about everything. Like, now it needs an operator that's going to run the systems and procedures and make it really profitable. And so I, as the entrepreneur being there, number one, I was making everyone else unhappy by changing things, trying to, figure out problems, always looking for the problems and trying to fix them. Like, that was an issue. Two, it was a problem because I was not feeling satisfied as an entrepreneur building and making changes and improving. And so, like, the stage of the business that's kind of finished at our local area. So what I began to realize is that, you know what, I got to find something bigger to chew on. I got to find something bigger a bigger challenge, because I started getting restless with what I was doing on a day-to-day basis, restless with dealing with the people and all that sort of thing, right? So what we ended up doing is expediting the franchise process. So way back in the spring, I was like, you know what, look, I know we had said like a year and a half, we're going to do the franchise thing. We got to do it now. And so over the past 3-4 months, that's what I've been working on. And now we've just launched where we franchised Augusta, and now we're selling the licenses. And now it's all great and wonderful, and we're all cheer because now we're selling the licenses and everything's going well. But what I want to talk about today is those moments when you do feel like you want to quit. And I feel like the thing I want to talk about today, because there's no real like specific theme, I want to talk about and just kind of refer quickly to being self-aware in those moments when you do want to quit, and asking yourself, really, why do you want to quit? And I feel like a lot of times we just get frustrated, and it's a compilation of so many different things going on in our personal life, going on in our health, going on in the business, going on in the financial side of the company, going on within the different employees within the business, especially your direct reports. Things start happening, mistrust, they say certain things, whatever. And a lot of it, everything, is your fault as the owner. And so that can get really, really challenging to deal with. And so in those moments when you do want to quit, what do you need to do? I'm not going to talk so much about what do you need to do as much as something that's very important. It's just being self-aware of why you're feeling that way. Because if you need to continue growing that business, if you can continue just making the business better, if you need to keep the business open and pass it on to your family down the road, regardless of the goals of the business, you've got to get through those spots in life, in the business cycle, when you do feel like you want to quit. And we're all going to have them. Like, you're not special or different. The reason that so many people get so depressed in those moments is because no one else shares during those moments. No one talks about the times they want to quit until they're like 20 years down the road, 5 years down the road, whatever, and everything's now resolved itself. And then they look back and talk about the times that they were going through things and they wanted to quit, and the hard times, the times they were almost bankrupt. But very few people, and this is something I'm going to become more passionate about as I go through these issues, is very few people share while they're going through those times that they want to quit. Very few people actually share during those moments. So when we do, as business owners, we feel like we're all alone because all our friends, they're saying business as well, and we're super busy, and everything's going great, and the economy's fantastic, and we're just so busy we can't deal with the work, and we're having the best year ever, and all these other things, because that's like the persona that we as business owners have to put out. It's like society is telling us, if you want to be a good entrepreneur and a good small business owner, everything's got to be going well, when in fact it just doesn't happen that way. And so if you're in that moment now, or if you come to that moment when you do start to resent the business, I would suggest that you just get very, very self-aware. Why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel like going to work is a drudgery? Why do I, quote unquote, hate my employees every time they do something wrong? Why is my level of just putting up with stuff less during this time? Like, why am I so annoyed? Being self-aware is really important. And so for me, I feel like the biggest reason we as business owners get to that place is we start to resent the business because of the things it's taking away from us, or because of the things that we just have to sacrifice in order to be a business owner. There's sacrifices, like on the weekends, at nights, like we give up those times. That means time away from the family. That means, like I said, time away from the gym, which then can, you can literally start. I've met many business owners that have type 2 diabetes, have gained 40 pounds, have back issues because they sit all day, work on their business. And then there's times during tax season, they're literally sitting down for weeks on end almost, and they develop physical issues because of their business. And so they literally start to resent the business because it's taken away their health. It's taken away their time with their family. It's taken away even for some their marriage because they've allowed it. They have given themselves over to the business so much and sacrifice so much that the marriage, the relationship falls apart. And now they start to resent the business because in their mind, it took away the relationship. It took away their health. It took away their opportunity to go to their kids' events and the time that they have on the weekends and the time that they want to spend in the evenings with their family. And that is all part of being a business owner. And yes, do you get to the point? Yes, do you grow out of that sometimes? Yes, do you get to the point like last week was a phenomenal experience for me. Everything I've ever talked about on the show really culminated last week. And I probably, in my mind, downplay it more than actually the significance that it actually was by me not being there, but more than just a few hours the whole week. The amount of time that I was able to work on doing stuff for other business owners, the amount of time I spent on working on the franchise, like we're going to hit our goal. We're going to get 10 franchisees by November, which is like unheard of. We're going to do it. And it's because I've been able to get out of that day-to-day position, and I've been able to delegate to amazing people that, in the next few months are probably gonna be underpaid because the business is trying to catch up and is trying to, they're learning and they're training. So they're gonna see the results. They're going to taste the victory down the road too. But like amazing people that have allowed me to do that. And even though I did back in the spring resent my employees, I just want to make a clarification. That was my fault. It was my fault that I, in my mindset, had made it a certain way where their performance had to be so high and they were always falling short when really they were just doing a really good job, but not as high as I wanted them to be. And so, great people that work there. And so I'm very, very privileged. And I think looking back at last week, the amount that I was able to do on the things I do love, on things I am passionate about. Like I operated on low levels of sleep and still feel very energetic because I was doing stuff that I just love. I love and I believe in. I believe in what we're doing with the franchise. I believe we're going to change the industry. And I just get pumped about that. I wake up and I'm just ready to roll. And it's better for the employees. It's better for them now to have an operator and people that are managing the business from a profitability and efficiency standpoint instead of trying to figure things out, break things and looking for broken stuff all the time and trying to fix it. That's my personality, and very, very high levels of people the biggest criticism I get is that I expect so much from my employees, and sometimes unrealistic, especially direct reports or people in management. I just sometimes have unrealistic levels of performance that I feel they should be hitting. And so for me to be out of that position now is better. And for me to be back growing something, building something, there will come a day. Let me say this. In another 5 years on this podcast, I'll be making another episode about Augusta franchise with 500, 600 franchisees and me feeling again in the same spot. This is the cycle of business as an entrepreneur. This is what's going to happen in 5-6 years when we have 500-600 franchisees at Augusta Lawn Care. I am going to feel like I am going to the franchise and going to work, spending the bulk of my time doing things that are not helping others, that are not moving the ball down the court for the good of the industry. And I'll feel like we kind of accomplished what we needed in the industry and changed it to the level, and I want to go do something bigger in the industry. I want to go change something bigger. It'll happen in 6-7 years probably, I'm guessing. But that will happen. And to realize, number one, that that's a normal process of the business cycle is important. Number two, to realize that in the moment, you can be self-aware enough to realize why you're feeling resentment toward the business, why you feel like quitting, why you feel depressed. It literally might be the expectations of people in your family, and you're just not meeting them, and thereby you are depressed because their characterization and their opinion of you is less than what you want it to be. That's a real thing. The way that your spouse or your significant other feels the business is mistreating you or is taking too much of your time away from them. Those are real things that can affect you, and thereby you start to treat your business differently. You start making different business decisions. And just to be self-aware in that moment is very, very important. And if you're not, this is something I would say, if you're not self-aware enough to realize why you hate the business, in a certain moment in time, talk to somebody. usually the person you work really closely with, because they can see you the most. They see you the most throughout the day, and they're able to give really good feedback that you might not like, that might be hurtful, that you might not agree with, but it'll give you a good frame of reference for why, like what changed. Like, why was I a few months ago so passionate about the business, and now I feel like quitting, and I hate coming to work, and I resent the business, I resent the employees, I resent the customers. Every time we get more work, I'm not really into it, I'm not passionate. And you are going to, like, if that is left unchecked, the business will be affected. The employees will be affected. The employees will leave. That will affect the business. The business will deteriorate if you as the owner aren't passionate about it, don't want to be there, and feel like quitting every day. That culture will begin to infect, that bad apple will begin to infect everyone else in the organization. And so what I get a kick out of is when business owners have checked out in their mind and still want to be at their business for another few years before they sell it or do something else. And then they wonder why everyone else in the organization starts to have the same culture of like just getting through it and just like plowing through and not caring and not being passionate about what they're doing and not going the extra mile. It's because you as the owner aren't. So for me to get out of the position of day-to-day operations was the best thing for the company, to replace it with people that are eager to learn, eager to do what I was doing 5 years ago and figuring things out and making sure the systems and procedures are implemented, and then giving me information that I can disseminate and give to the franchisees to be able to make sure they don't get to the same place where they hate their business and they hate their employees. And the biggest thing about this is, number one, realize that everyone goes through that. And I'm going to share these things. I'm going to be open and honest about these things because I know that so many people don't talk about these moments as they're going through it. They talk about it down the road once they're successful and they've like outgrown these problems. Then they talk about their hard times back in the day. I want to share these moments in time when even though this is several months ago, and now I have kind of grown out of that sort of stage, but like I'm trying to be more transparent. But even if you go back to the spring episodes of this podcast, you can hear me talk about some of the, there's some moments I feel really, you can tell I'm probably really tired and somewhat defeated. And I probably talked about depression and stuff like that because that's what I was going through. In the business sense, that's what I was going through. Like the business side doesn't affect me a whole lot in my kind of like spiritual, emotional side, but it like, in my brain, in my physical, like day-to-day stuff, like it affects me big time. Like it's a huge part of what I do. For us as business owners, it's what we do like 80% of our living day, like, awake hours is what we're doing. And so it's something that's close to us. It's part of us. And it's okay to realize that when things go south in the business, it's going to affect you. When things are not aligned with your passions and you don't feel fulfilled going to work, it's going to affect you. What you got to do is be self-aware enough to make sure it doesn't affect the people working at your business, and therefore it's going to affect the company and the organization and the financials eventually. And so, if you can be self-aware enough to realize you're in the same spot and you want to quit, go talk to someone. Talk to your employees. Talk to someone you trust. Talk to your spouse. Talk to someone that's around you the most and is going to be able to tell you, I think this is the things that happened. I think this is what changed. I think this is what happened for you to now change your mindset from a place of like going forward and wanting to conquer the world and change, do all these things and make the business better, to being the point where you don't want to come to work. They might give really good insight for you, and they will say things that you do not want to hear and might hurt and you might not agree with, but it's really good insight. And some of the things that I heard during those moments during the spring were the things about me expecting too much from people, me trying to always look for things to fix and always look, and therefore I'm so focused on like the broken things, I don't realize that the machine is working really well, and I'm so zeroed in on the thing that's broken. Like those things are not easy to hear when I'm like totally against those attributes, but it definitely reset me to the point where like, okay, I realize now, hearing it from someone else, not only are those possibly true, but there's definitely been a change. I need to address them from a third party perspective and step out and be self-aware enough. Like we got to be self-aware enough to step out of our business and assess it, right? We got to be self-aware to step outside of our business, look at our leadership style and analyze it. We got to be able, the biggest thing I see in businesses is we're not self-aware enough to step outside of our financial world of our business and look at our business and be like, okay, where are we spending too much money? Because this is what we do in our mind. We just justify every single purchase. We just justify every single hire. Like, why is so-and-so actually working in our company? Like, we have so much pride wrapped up in the fact that we hired them and that we know them or they're my friend or whatever. We have so much pride wrapped up in that we can't have self-awareness to step outside and have third-party eyes on our business and look at it as a separate thing and analyze it and look for the errors and look for the problems. And we begin to just go along with our issues. And then that's when I talk to business owners and it's like, oh no, everything's fine. Everything's great. But I just don't know why the business is falling apart. That person was not self-aware enough. If they have the entrepreneurial skills, if that's actually their DNA, they just simply were not self-aware enough to step out of their business and look at it from a third party, take all the emotion out of it and look at it and be like, okay, where are we spending too much money? Oh, maybe we need to fire so-and-so because they're a drag on revenue. Maybe we need to fire so-and-so because they're horrible for the culture of the business. And to be self-aware. I truly believe that if you're in a place where financially or emotionally you're disconnected from your business or the financials of your business are not doing well, the best thing you can deploy is self-awareness enough to step out of your pride, step out of the position of being a role and a CEO and being, all your friends thinking you are a business owner and that title thing, and just get to the point where you can analyze your business, analyze your psyche and how your emotional being is doing towards the business, what your relationship with the business, how is that going? Do you feel it's mistreating you? Because if it is, you're gonna mistreat it, and be self-aware. If you don't have anyone to talk to, no one that's that close, I'd love to talk to you. If I've got a slot of 5 minutes on my calendar to try to help you, email me, businessbootcamppodcast@gmail.com, or just go on businessbootcamppodcast.com, and I could try being that person. But like I said, I'd like for that person, if you're in that place, that low place, that depressed place, the place you want to quit. If you want to quit, do not quit, number one. Don't quit on your business. Don't quit on the employees. Don't quit because the emotional drain for you going forward, the thing that it'll do to you is you will not be able to have, someone quitting their business is one of the most damaging things they can do, in my opinion, to their psyche many times. If they have to close because of financial reasons, they're just not operating the business well and it just falls apart, that's one of the most damaging things for an entrepreneur and a business owner, especially if the business has been handed down from generation to generation and it's been around for a really long time. If you're the weakest link that breaks, that does something really damaging to the confidence of an entrepreneur. And so I would say don't close, don't quit. Just be self-aware to realize that you've got to change. The business has got to change. The way you spend the money in the business has got to change. The way you advertise has got to change. And just be self-aware to know that. And go talk to somebody. Talk to the person you work closely with and see what you can do to change yourself. You've been listening to the Business Bootcamp Podcast. I'm Mike Andes. Until next time, be great, because nothing else pays.